Hi, y'all. So today we have a big planetary alignment, and that is the Sun, which is a luminary, not a planet, obviously, is conjunct the planet Uranus. This happens once every year, and you can feel the energies for a few days before and a few days after. But today, both the Sun and Uranus are at 10 degrees Taurus. Now, I've made a few videos in the last few days about the Taurian archetypes, and from the evolutionary astrology perspective, which is what I practice, Taurus is really learning about self sufficiency, its value system, and self love. So, when the sun is in Taurus, or if you are a Taurus yourself, or if you have a lot of Taurian energy in your chart, then these themes will be pronounced in your life. So, Uranus is the planet of, it's actually pretty cool. Sudden and unexpected changes, surprises. It's the planet of hopes, wishes, and dreams. It's the planet of astrology. It also symbolizes and represents liberation. And the way in which we find liberation in a Uranian sense is usually through the unanticipated change that arises. So when Uranus is conjunct the sun, we can expect that there might be something unexpected that arises today. Now, we can interpret unexpected happenings as good or bad, positive or negative. And of course, that's partly our mindset. And so I would encourage you today, if you have had a challenge of any kind, I know that I have. I've recently found out that my office space where I'm filming this, which I love, is going to be moving, and I've only been here for a few months, and I just got settled in like a week ago. I just hung the last piece of art that had been just sitting against the wall, and I took my hammer home, and then I got a call from my landlord a few days later like, ooh, gotta let you know. And you can imagine that I did not interpret that as happy news. I didn't go into a terrible story about it, but it stressed me out. I was disappointed. I've had some concern and worry, like, oh no, now what, right? And interestingly, today with Uranus conjunct the sun, I actually met my landlord for the first time. He lives in another state, and he's like, we're going to take care of you. We're going to find you another office in this building. Like, don't worry about anything, right? So I had this sudden and unexpected news a few days ago when the sun got close to Uranus, and then today during this exact conjunction I got more news that was positive. Even if I still don't necessarily like the situation, it's probably the best playing out of the situation that it could be. And so I would encourage you to really make the effort to have a positive perspective about whatever happens today. So if it's positive, great. You're not going to have to put forth a lot of mental energy in that. But if it's something that is surprising to you or shocking or that you would categorize as negative, I would encourage you to really shift your perspective and see if you can, even if you can't find something positive about it, if you can allow a certain level of trust or surrender into your consciousness and think about how other situations in the past that you haven't loved have probably worked out to your advantage in the long run. And just because right now it's uncomfortable doesn't mean that a few days from now, a week from now, a month from now, that you won't be able to identify the exact reason that the change happened and the benefit that you're deriving from it. I mean, COVID is an excellent example of this, right? COVID has been absolutely hellacious on so many levels, but it's also helped us reorient in really profound ways that have been really, really beneficial, right? So Uranus brings in that kind of energy where it can be just like a rapid shift, and that can be difficult for the brain to wrap its mind around. And it's particularly difficult for the fixed signs. So if you have a lot of energy, a lot of planets, or your sun or your moon in Scorpio, in Taurus, in Aquarius, and oh geez, what's the other fixed sign? I wish there was somebody here to help me out. Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo. Okay, so Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius. These are the fixed signs. They have a more difficult time with change. And so if you're one of these signs, or if you have your moon in one of these signs, then it might be even more difficult. It might be like, I don't want this to change. But consider that without change, we don't evolve, right? It's the discomfort and uncomfortable situations that we find ourselves in that force us to grow and evolve. And if you are on a spiritual path, and I'm guessing most people watching this video, you are on a spiritual path, that is the impetus and the stimulus for our spiritual evolution is discomfort. So without it, there's stagnation. I've mentioned this in other videos. So as we consider the sudden or unexpected changes or surprises that we might get today in the next few days, or that we might have gotten last week, like me with my office space, keep in mind the Taurian archetypes of self-worth, values, and self-sufficiency. So any situation that is arising right now, I want you to consider how it's contributing to those three primary archetypes for Taurus, because it will help you better understand how to work with the situation for your highest good. So I, for example, know that I have to have an office with a window. I can't survive without a window. My mental health suffers. So as I was talking to my landlord and he was like, well, we're going to look for this other office, I have the self-love and the confidence to say, I absolutely have to have a window. If I don't have a window, I'll have to look elsewhere for office space, right? And so I know that's a value of mine. I'm paying to have a window because it's so important to me. So that's kind of maybe a silly example, but I'm sure you can apply it to your own life to determine like knowing where your values lie and gaining a sense of self-sufficiency will enable you to navigate this moment more readily. And I'm speaking to this for such a long time because what we are experiencing for the duration of 2021 is the big planetary alignment of the planet Uranus squaring the planet Saturn. Okay, and so we have 3 exact conjunctions this year, but that energy is prevailing throughout the year. So even though just like today where Uranus and the Sun are coming together at one specific time, we can feel that energy a few days before and after, and for all of Taurus season really, the whole month that the Sun is in Taurus. But I'll be making another video about the Saturn-Uranus square, because essentially what we're looking at, what this energy is reflecting about our individual and collective lives, is that there is an old way of being, of doing things, and there's a new way of being and doing things. And we are being asked individually and collectively to take what worked from the old way and integrate it with what we know has to now unfold for our lives, for our best interest. And COVID obviously has created a lot of situations. Like when I was talking to my landlord just now, he was mentioning that Google just announced that I think 70% of its employees will be working remotely or want to work remotely, something like this, right? So this is a prime example of the Saturn-Uranus square, which is integration of the old and the new. And when you crystallize and you don't want to step into the new, then there's more difficult challenges, cataclysmic, it feels like, in our lives, right? Because things crystallize and then Uranus comes in and is like, no, we got to bust up that energy because it's stagnant. It's no longer working. So we're seeing that collectively in a big way. And in fact, you might even be able to identify it easier on the global scale than in your own life. But again, if you focus on what do you value, your own self-sufficiency and your self-love, your self-worth, then it will become more and more obvious how this is playing out in your own life. So if something has arisen for you in these last few days, let me know. I'd love to hear some comments about like your equivalent of your office being, the announcement that my office is going to change. If you have a story along those lines, please let me know. It's really helpful as we're learning about astrology and studying astrology to see how it plays out in other people's lives. It becomes easier to identify the energies that are at play and how it's reflected in our own lives and how to navigate it. So I'd love to have a conversation with you about that. And if you have any other questions, let me know. Okay, Have a lovely, lovely day, and I will be back again soon. Ciao, ciao.